Welcome. My name is Douglas Getz, and you've found your way to the Diving and Thriving podcast. Here, we have enlightening conversations about how we can better navigate this sometimes crazy world we live in. From refreshing spiritual perspectives to tips about personal growth, the focus here is about how we can become better human beings. So I'd like to thank you for being here today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. All right, welcome Anthony Wilson to the Diving and Thriving podcast. I'm happy to have you on, brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm happy we got to connect and I got to get you on the podcast. You know, we never really were friends in high school or really knew each other too well. So it was nice that Spike was able to connect us about a week ago or something. And you got a cool story. And
yeah, it's funny.
Person too. So
it's funny because like high school is like a whole different it's like a whole different ball game. Like I wish I could tell like my high school self like what, how to act.
Yeah.
Like based on how I act now and like treat people, because like high school is was like very cliquey.
Yeah.
And like you'd never know we only had 196 kids graduate. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Because there's so many cliques and like you had to do this or you had to be like that or but that's just how high school is. And like it's cool to be able to reconnect with someone that that went to my high school that I wasn't very close with.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. You know, I think it's cool to be able to cross those lines and really get to know more people and whatnot. High school is definitely cliquey, so you really don't get to know a lot of people, especially if you're in different grades like we were.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't really we weren't in the same social circles. So it kind of spells it out. But so did you grow up in Collingswood? Were you always from Collingswood?
Yeah, so I went to elementary school in Collingswood. My parents like split up when I was like, I want to say like 3. So I grew up in Audubon, like for the first like probably 5 years. And then I would go see my father on the weekends. But my schooling and stuff, they were like, we want you to be in Collingswood, I went to like Mark Newby Elementary School, and then I went to Collingswood High. And I spent the majority of my time in that area, like the majority of my life, and I love the area.
Yeah.
Love the people there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good area, man. It's gotten a lot of attention, and their whole Main Street developed within the past like 10-ish years, 10, 15 years or something. They apparently got a grant for Main Street money, they called it. So kind of develop their Main Street more, make it look more like Haddonfield, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then they also like redid the school while we were in high school. I don't know if you remember, but we like before it was like middle school, high school, and like you had to like walk outside to get from like the middle school to the high school. But we got that connector. Yeah. We got like the brand new library. So it was like cool. Like we were like the first class to like see it all finished, nice. And then before we graduated.
Nice. Did you, when did that occur? That was like, what year was that for you? Because you were a year above me, I believe.
Right. So that was the year. So up until the year I graduated, so it was like my sophomore into junior into senior.
Yeah.
They started like sophomore summer, and then junior and senior, they were like finished it by senior. Yeah, it was cool because they were like working on it nonstop.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's nice. It's always nice to get improvements in your school. Especially
we got like a
walk outside. Come back.
It was crazy. People would like skip school and stuff. Like
that seems like a prime opportunity, honestly. Just
walk out. Right. So.
Yeah, that's funny. So did you go to Collingswood for all 4 years?
Yes, I did. I knew everyone in Collingswood. I knew all the classmates because I was there like my whole life. I would walk to school until I got a car. Yeah. It was literally 5 minutes from my house.
Mm-hmm.
I was like a varsity athlete at like a very young age, so like I played tennis. I brought back the bowling team, which whatever, I was really good at it. So I was like, there's no reason why to not put Collingswood on the board for something else. Right. Yeah. And then soccer I played.
Nice.
So yeah, I like knew people from sports, and like I would always, go out and do extracurricular activities with people, and people knew me from that. And so
that's what's up, man. Yeah. Doing sports, you definitely get a friend group from just doing that. Like other athletes, and then even like the other sports that cross over, kind of, you still meet them and cross paths with them in the locker room before practice.
Right.
So I always liked being a part of sports. I played like various sports over the year, but in high school I did football and wrestling my senior year. And I had a troubled road playing football because I tore my ACL twice. So I wasn't able to do pretty much anything too much on the field. Like I got an award for being a JV unsung hero at Bishop Eustace.
That's cool.
So that's something. But then literally like the last practice of the season, I tore my ACL for a game that I wasn't even playing in after. I was just like going hard in practice.
Nice.
And that led to a second one, and it's not. Yeah, be careful on that last practice day.
Yeah,
you have nothing to prove.
Exactly.
Not playing the next day.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't move because I'm in PA now, and I didn't move. Like it's like Jersey is like really all I knew until like about almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I live in Pennsylvania now.
Nice.
Yeah. And I don't know. School was like good, and like everything was like fine, right? Like I was like doing well in school. Like I went to Camden County College, right? And I was in the STARS program. I don't know if did you go to college?
I remember that program. I was in that program.
Right, yeah.
As well, yeah.
It was awesome. Like people talked crap on it, and I was like, no, like I literally hit the button in front of everyone to talk to a counselor. Like, I had like I had a 3.8 there. Yeah, it was cool.
The top 15% of your graduating class.
Yeah.
Was it tuition free at community college?
So it was tuition free, and then as long as you stayed in as long as you stayed in like good academic standing, you could transfer to another state school tuition free for the next 2 years, just to get your prereqs out. And like I didn't understand like how powerful that program was, because like I see people going to like 4-year schools, and I'm like jealous because I'm gonna party with them. And then it's like, all right, like the smart way of doing it, since prereqs are universal everywhere, is to just go somewhere cheap.
Yeah.
And then knock out your last 2 years, and then hit like a grad school somewhere and spend your money on that, if you want to go that route of like schooling.
Yeah.
So it was a cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, one of the best programs that's set up for students other than financial aid, like on the statewide level. Like, what was it? I remember doing a similar thing, like kind of being jealous of the kids that are at 4-year universities. I wanted to go to University of Delaware right out of high school. And I remember comparing the costs, and I think after scholarships and everything, it was going to be $28,000 per year. And my mom worked at Camden County College at the time, and I was in the STARS program. So like either way, it was free tuition. So I was like, okay, well, let me weigh this, like $28,000 or free.
Right.
Like that's an easy decision for me.
Yeah.
So I went.
For me back then, it was like, okay, like let's be all completely ego driven and be like, all right, well, I'm going to this school, so like let me show out and show you that like just because I wasn't like in the top 10 for my class doesn't mean I can't go to an expensive school. Like that was like my mindset. But luckily, my mom, she was like, I'm not signing any of that shit. She's like, I'm not signing any loans for you. You're going to Camden County College.
Oh yeah, the loans are.
And I'm so happy. I'm so happy she did that.
Yeah, the loans are serious, man.
Yeah.
It's like
I would never go back to school, to be honest.
There's jokes. You leave school.
I don't knock it.
There's right. There's jokes about it. It's like you leave school with like could be $200,000 in debt.
Except that's not a joke. That's real life.
It's like you bought a house, but you didn't get the house.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it's like a risk that you're taking. It's a risk factor you're taking when most people don't even believe in themselves. They're just like, well, this is like what I want to do. but is this something I can successfully do? Like, that's why I think school is kind of like not for me, because I always did really well in it because I could study out of a book and I could memorize. And the real proof in the pudding is like being able to like replicate what you're learning onto like your field. You know what I'm saying? And like, I just kind of wish they would explain that a little bit better. Like, be like, hey, like, you need to find your passion, like not just like what you want to do. So you're about to drop a whole entire mortgage loan for a house, except on schooling, and you don't really know if you're going to get a job in that field.
Yep.
And
then you got to weigh out how much that job is going to pay, if it's worth it. Like,
I mean,
an art degree.
I firmly believe that like, if you are passionate about anything, that the money will follow and that you don't have to worry about it. But I think that because we are so, as like a nation, and that's cool. Like, I don't knock it. I love school. I am all for it. I'll send my kids to school, you know, but I think that it shouldn't be like so limited. Okay, school or like nothing, you know, like it's just like push. Like, what about a trade school? Like learning a trade, or like none of my counselors in high school were never like, oh, learn a trade, you know, because it'd be a good idea in case something bad happens in your field. Like you have a trade to fall back. Like I wasn't taught that, or like real life stuff, like being able to like sales. That's not talked about, you know, creating brands, like things like that. Like it was just kind of like study out of this book, get this degree, and then like get a job with someone. There were no networking classes. Like, hey, you need a network so you can get in with a good company. How do I do that? You know, so I don't have like any resentment or anything. I'm just like trying to explain how naive I was when I was in school. Luckily everything like works out how it should, because it always does, out of like my control. But that's something I would definitely tell my old self. Like, you don't have to go.
Yeah, man. You know, there's countless kind of pitfalls that are from school that you don't really get, like learning taxes, how to take out a mortgage, what they look for, how to start a business, and things like that. These are like real life skills, like how to pay your taxes, make sure that if you're like this kind of worker, you've saved money so you pay it at the end of it, not in the beginning.
How to change a tire.
Why
don't they teach that in gym class? Like, hey, this is how you change a tire.
Yo, tell me about it. That would definitely
like they do driver's ed. It's like, okay, how do you change a tire when you get a flat in your mom's car? You know, like what?
Right. Or make sure you get AAA. Like,
where's the donut?
You gotta plan for. So that's definitely a skill. Changing tires, big, and some of those other things. Like school does kind of fall short in those respects. You know, I was just talking to someone yesterday, and there was like another type of school that was run for a little bit. It's called the Sudbury School. And what it was the students initiated the lessons that they wanted to learn. There'd be classes from like 5, 6, 7-year-olds and 14, 15-year-olds. I think it was like a full range. And like pre-K or kindergarten through high school, something like that. It was a small school, but kids of all ages. And what they would do, they would require, before any lesson started, the student had to initiate the lesson. So the student had to say, I want to learn how to read. I want to learn math. I want to learn biology. And it'd say, okay. And then you'd form like a group of students that would want to learn that. And then it'd be like a handful in the class. So like 6 or 10 or 14 kids learning biology because they want to learn it, all different age ranges. And it was more of a passion-based type of education. So what they found was that students picked up so much more, so much quicker, and retained it because they wanted to learn it. Versus like here's
me having to take a home cooking class as an elective.
Yeah.
when I want to be a biology major.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's one of the good ones that teach you like life skills, like changing.
Yeah. But like now we have YouTube and stuff for that. Like
Yeah.
I like go on YouTube or like I'll
Yeah.
Pinterest or go on like
Yeah.
a recipe website and just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
There's
tells you
that.
it maps out everything.
Yeah. I mean, you could do
I
your
wouldn't
whole
waste hours of schooling on that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you could do your whole schooling on YouTube pretty much if you really wanted to.
right.
Yeah.
So that was like another thing. Like internet wasn't as big.
Yeah.
It was just coming about. I know that like Instagram just came about when I was a senior, and I thought it was so cool because it was all pictures and stuff, and like there's no like social media classes either for school. It's just so traditional. Like
right.
Everything is executed through the internet today. Even if you are a word of mouth person, like you like to get business through word of mouth, usually it's executed somehow through the internet, and it's not like we like just, there are very little companies that like do well and just go knock on people's doors. People are so used to being behind a computer screen via Zoom, via Skype, especially now that the pandemic happened, and like the internet is huge. And I just wish I was on that wave. Like I wish I was like, oh, like I wish, like I want to stay on that. I want to learn more about the internet. I want to learn more about Instagram. I want to learn more about influencing. I didn't even know what that word was until like 3 years ago.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's they don't touch on those in high school. They touch on them more in college, but you need to specialize in them more. And you have to know you want to do that. And it's kind of a much more narrow road. So you have to know you want to be a marketer before you learn about marketing. So high school is like the perfect time to introduce that stuff to you, because it gives you like a palette of things to choose from. It gives you more experience and more choices versus
like last minute, like I think I should do this, and then like changing your major and wasting more money. And I know so many people who are like, oh, I'm going back to school because I don't want to do this. And I'm just like, dude, like I can only imagine how much debt that is. And dude, like whatever.
People just changing your major within a 4-year university. Like if you've been there all 4 years, like, okay, the gen ed stay the same, but like you hope you don't have too many classes that you've gone and taken and paid for and completed that end up not getting used. Like hopefully that's not the case, but I mean it is the case. Once you change your major, it's an expensive decision at that point. So I mean that's why the community college route is such the better route of financially speaking. Hands down.
Yeah, I always promote that to people because like I didn't even finish. Like I think I had like 3 classes left. Like I had like life show up, and I didn't handle it correctly, or at all actually. But I think I had like 3 classes left because I ended up changing my major
for college. Or
and I was supposed to go to Rutgers.
Yeah.
Before all that happened, because like I was finished, and then I don't know, it was a shit show.
Yeah, shit. But, I mean, life happens. So
yeah.
You can't really get out of the way of it sometimes. It's like a moving train.
Right. But so life was like pretty good up until like what I was just talking about, I guess I could like dive into it just to like
you
explain to you like what's like how we can get through things we normally don't think we can. So high school was like good, for the most part. I would like party like with everyone, Like I'd party like I'd throw parties, good. I always knew where the party was,
Yeah.
And like everyone was like, oh, you're fun, like whatever. And I'd be like blacked out in the corner, like peeing in like someone's toaster. Like it was a mess.
Yeah.
Like falling downstairs, but like I was the life of the party. Like what a great label to have.
It's a fun atmosphere to be in. Like especially high school, it's fun to be at the house parties.
Yeah, just oblivious to life.
You got to be in the know to really be there too. So like you got to cross a certain threshold or be friends with the right people.
Yeah, and I was, and like I was not only friends with the right people in Collingswood, I was friends with the right people in like the surrounding high schools. So like I would always have something to do.
That's what's up.
so yeah, I was like partying and stuff, and like I didn't really like think like my drinking was bad, because
Yeah.
like I would like smoke weed and like do all that good stuff, like whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was an issue because I wasn't like, we're taught in like Dare and like Rebel. I don't know if you remember Rebel, reaching everyone by exposing lies. Like we're taught in those things that like
Whoa! I never heard of
real.
that one. Rebel
Yeah, I don't think I have that shirt anymore, but it was in
by
like
exposing
elementary school.
lies.
Yeah,
That's
and
funny.
it was like the sister of like
Really? Yeah.
Dare. Yeah, but
there's so many studies that Dare had zero impact, almost no impact across the country when it was.
Yeah, but it was like super
pushed.
Right, it was pushed, and
it
like
was everywhere. Yeah,
it was kind of like it kind of created the stigma of like you're better than like being this class of people that are rebelling against drugs, like instead of like helping,
or
instead of like let's reach everyone by lifting others up or like something like that. You know what I'm saying? But it was like back then, like and still even today, like addiction and like alcoholism is like looked down on because a lot of people don't understand that it's an actual disease classed along with like other diseases, like, and basically like I was like, first of all, I was prescribed studying medication. So that was exciting. And it helped me like lose weight. And I was like, my grades skyrocketed up. Like I was focusing. I was like actually doing stuff in study hall.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like this is cool. Like I needed this. And so like I'm drinking, doing that, and like smoking weed, and like I'm like a normal kid, like I look normal, like I'm part of the popular group. I hate using that word now because it's so shallow. Anyway, so yeah, that was like all good and dandy. Like I went to Camden County College. I had a couple different schools I was looking at, but my mom ultimately, thank God, talked me out of it. So I was there, and then I was like ready to transition over that summer. Like I was like ready. And it was June 11th, 2014. Long story short, like I usually like go in detail, but it's not necessary. But long story short, like my mom passed away in her sleep at 54, and I was the only one home when it happened. And well, actually, I lied. I had a friend come over, and like I heard it happen, right? Like I heard like a noise come from her room, but I had a friend over who like wanted to catch up from high school, and I heard it happen when she was over. And like for the longest time, I like had guilt. I was like, I probably could have saved her, but I heard it again. And that's probably when I could have done something, but I had a friend over. So like, it was like 15 minutes after. And I went into her room to like get my like razor. And like, I knew, like, it was weird. Like, I can't really explain it because it's not something that someone's going to be like, oh yeah, like I get it. Like I walked, like as I like stepped into like the like threshold of the door, like it was like everything like kind of froze. It was really bizarre. I can't explain it, but like, I just knew before I knew, so like I continued walking in her room, and she was like sleeping and on her stomach. So I like said her name, and she was like asleep forever. And like, I knew something was wrong. Like there was like not the right energy in the room, like the energy of like my mom that like raised me, like that molded me into the person I was to this day. Like that energy was vacant in that room, and I felt it. And so long story short, like I tried to like save her, but she was already gone. Her like liver shut down, I'm assuming. We never got an autopsy, whatever. It's my stepdad who didn't want to do that. But basically, like after that, like I didn't finish school at Camden County College. I never transferred. I was working an overnight job. I stayed at that, and I look back on it now based on the person I am today, and like I'm kind of glad it happened because I didn't. First of all, I can't control when people stay and leave this earth. I'm not that fucking powerful. You know what I'm saying?
We're not God.
So because that happened, it was able to make me hit a rock bottom I never knew possible. So I ended up going into like opiates and like It's weird because like I'm a firm believer in like energy. Like I was studying the law of attraction since like junior year of high school. It just really was appealing to me. Like the fact that we can't see energy, but we can feel it. That was appealing to me. I was like, it's like electricity, you know, like we can't see it, but we have faith that it's going to surge through a wire and cause a light bulb to go on, you know? And that's the same fascination I had with energy. I just trusted it. I always trusted my gut. And when I didn't trust my gut, something didn't align correctly. Anyway, so I was managing a warehouse at the time, just no purpose, completely just like pulled from me. The purpose I thought I was going to do, which was get a full ride to Rutgers and like be a nutrition major and like be a personal trainer, like whatever. That was like what I thought I was going to do because I was all about health and wellness at the time. And so I was in such a dark place. Darkness will, you know,
a lot of shit happened to you at that time, of course.
Right.
Of course, you're going to be in a dark place, like.
But that allowed more darkness to come in, you know, because I didn't have that wall up, you know. It was just kind of, I was inviting it. So, my cousin was one of my coworkers. He was like, I was his boss, and he was older than me. Like, got a job at this like place like 11 days before my mom died. So I was on bereavement already, and I was a manager. And when I got back, his dad, it's so bizarre. His dad had a heart attack, and my mom actually helped out with like the funeral expenses and like all the setting up and everything. And that was like not even a year before she passed. So it was like he was already dealing with pain, and I was dealing with pain. And he was like, "Well, here's the perfect thing for that." And that was when I was introduced to opiates, and like I was like, "This is great," you know. And you know, like it was just a blur of like, this was in 2014. So I was just kind of like going through life, and I moved out of my stepdad's house because he was an alcoholic, and there was nothing wrong with me. It was just him. Like he's a terrible person. He didn't get an autopsy for my mom, blah, blah, blah. Like just like trying to play the blame game, be victimed, into thinking that like I didn't have anything going on with myself, you know, just complete projection. And deflecting of like what's really happening. So I end up moving out of there, meeting someone, and I'm like, oh, this is the love of my life, you know, perfect. I need someone to console me like my mom used to. This is like close enough. Subconsciously, right? And so we move into Center City. Me, him, and a best friend of mine at the time, and it was a shit show. Like I was drinking, we lived above a bar. Like once again, like looking back on this, like this is what I attracted, you know. This is the chaos I attracted because I wasn't on a solid spiritual foundation. I was not grounded. And so
real quick, do you hear is Taylor Swift playing in your background?
No, it's Dua Lipa. Should I turn that off?
Yeah. I'm like, did I hear that right?
I need music. Anyway. All right. So it's fine. So basically I was a mess. Like I started getting into everything. Like it's only a matter of time before I couldn't afford rent, or like my car. I ended up getting my first DUI and that. But I was like, how did I get, you know, like this is crazy. I'm getting a DUI. I blew a .08. Like this isn't even like a big deal. Like once again, like just like in complete denial that I might have a problem, you know. Because like normal people like probably aren't going to be as out of control as I am. When life shows up, you know. And so I ended up falling behind on rent. And like at this point, my dad, a little backstory on him, he didn't get into like drugs and alcohol until like he was 30. He doesn't drink. He actually just, you know, does other crazy stuff.
Other drugs of choice.
Right. Maximum amounts of drugs of choice. But so
to each his own. You know, It was funny. My dad had a friend, his name was Jerry Ryder, and he would always say, like, what's your drug of choice? And he wouldn't always say it, but that was one of the things he'd say. Like, everyone has their drugs of choice, whether it's like weed and alcohol or like coffee and dancing. I don't know.
Right.
Some drugs are healthier than others, but anything too much, like moderation is the key with anything, especially if it's like an actual like substance like coffee or energy drinks. You can take them over the edge, even if it's just that. Like especially once you go to prescription drugs or alcohol or other things that are just straight up narcotics. So you gotta definitely gotta be careful. Like
for sure. There's
slippery slope, and you can slide real quick.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, because of this pandemic, like a lot of people passed away. Just a little side note. I'll get into that later, but so basically, like I was in an apartment. My dad was like sober at the time in like New York, and I like manipulated him because like my dad was always in and out of my life, because I was in Rebel.
Yeah.
There, so like I could say, oh, my dad's a loser, my dad's this, my dad's that, and then here I am like abusing opiates, asking for his help. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like full circle. My mom was also one of us too, so like me and my dad, and I just was in like such denial. Like I would call him, I made him like leave New York because I was having him send me hundreds of dollars a week. I'd be like, oh, my tire got flat, or oh, this, like I knew what I was doing, and then I like couldn't pay rent, and it was just like a shit show. Like basically, like I made it through the year. My dad came home like during Christmas time and like worked with his old boss so that I could pay rent. Like it was just like a really dark place. Like I had no control over it. Like my life was unmanageable to the max. But yeah, like long story short, that kept happening. Me and my dad ended up getting a place together, and my dad ended up like relapsing because he couldn't handle it. He had no solution in his life. It was just kind of like he was just kind of like removed from it, which is cool, but like it's like kind of like just patching up like a pipe with like electrical tape. Like eventually that adhesive is going to come off.
Yep.
And the water's eventually going to go through, unless you have like a solid solution and you replace the pipe that is leaking. Then you're going to still like issues are going to come here and there. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's basically the best way I can describe like that situation. And
coping skills are huge.
Right.
They're everything. When they throw stuff at you. How do you handle it?
Yeah. And so me and my, like, I'll just paint you a picture of like what my life looked like about 2 years ago. It was me living in a studio apartment in like a really terrible apartment complex with my father. Him sleeping on the floor at 63 years old because I'm selfish and self-centered. I'm sleeping on a futon. We have no food in the house. I have cockroaches, barely have hot water. And like that was like normal because like I had a job and I was able to like pay for like what I needed, not paying any bills. I had no license at this point for like 7 years. No car. No, he just had like a work van. And yeah, like that was like normal for me, like it's crazy like what our minds can trick us into thinking is okay. So yeah, like I don't need to like get into like war stories and like crazy, what I did to get my next one. Like that's not a thing anymore. So basically, like I remember, and this is like where I would like to touch into like the spirituality aspect, because I never had a connection the way I do now with something greater than me. Whether you want to call it the universe, you want to call it God, you want to call it good, orderly direction, like whatever, something put us on this earth, and whether you want to be oblivious to it or not, like that's up to you. Like that's personally like what I believed for a very long time, that I was just gonna like float into nothingness, and like this was like a sham, and like I didn't have a choice, and like be resentful for the longest time. But yeah, like this is like kind of like the transition period for me to like understand what life is truly about. And just like a little side note, like so like me being like a gay man, I always really struggled with the Bible itself. And I was in like a little Christian facility for a little bit in New York, actually where my father went. He sent me there in 2017, and I did not stay sober, but I did learn the Bible very well, and like I always knew of the Bible and like whatever. And um, I liked the dude that walked the earth, like all that red text that's in the Bible. I liked what he had to say, but I couldn't back it up because there were 7 other verses that condemned who I was as a person and my sexuality.
Yeah.
And that ultimately hindered me from completely surrendering to someone with that could radiate something that could radiate that much love. It made me feel unworthy.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and so I finally, well, first off, I they were trying to tell me, like the pastors there and stuff, well, you know, like just be abstinent for the rest of your life. And I'm like, I don't think you, I was like, why don't you be abstinent for the rest of your life? Like, I'm just like you. I'm a human just like you. And like, just because I'm naturally attracted to the same sex, like, doesn't make me any less of a person. But because I was not, looking back on it, I think it's the silliest thing I've ever heard of, you know, like the people still do that, like condemn other people, but they're like Christian, you know? And, but I was in like a weird space. Like I had no solution in my life. And like, I just kind of like, these were like the people I like were kind of forced to idolize, you know what I'm saying? So, when they told me that, I was like, oh, okay, well maybe, they're right. Maybe I should try it. And like, I was open-minded. Thank God I was open-minded, because I tried to like stay away from like the same sex. I tried to like suppress like my desires of lust. I tried doing all that. And naturally, like that is very, unless you were like called as like a monk of some sort or like a Buddha, like that is not something that like I feel like a normal person is called to do.
Yeah.
You know, like
live a life without pleasure.
Right. And like pleasure, like you said, like everything in moderation is good.
Yeah.
But like
pleasure or love too. Love is a huge thing. Yeah.
And so basically like I ended up relapsing there, because that was like something that like hung over, and I had no solution. Like I said, I had no solution. It was just like pray. And like in all different books written around the world, the term faith without works is dead. Is written in
what?
There. Works is dead.
Faith without
so
works.
All different kinds of books. Okay. Just you can look up the term, that sentence, and there will be plenty of books that will show up in Google that will say that.
I've never really heard that term before.
Yeah, so actually it's written in the Bible first and foremost. Also written in other literature that I follow today. What's it mean?
What's it like?
So basically, in my sense, in my circumstances, I thought I could just lean on faith in God, faith in this, faith in that, to keep me sober. Because ultimately I was trying to figure out how to control. I was trying to figure out how to manage my life again, and I realized I never really knew how to do that in the first place, you know? So faith without works is dead.
Okay.
Faith did not keep me sober.
Faith, it's faith, but you can't totally rely
on
it.
The thing is like God, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it, spirit of the universe, is not going to do something for you. I'll keep it on me. It was not going to do something for me. I had to get up off my ass and meet it halfway. That's what that means by faith without works is dead. You can't just sit in your fucking room and pray for something and expect the result to happen. I believe that the universe, God, whatever you'd like to call it, is a catalyst. It serves as a catalyst for all that is good in my life. However, I need to change my thinking. I need to want to help other people. I need to get rid of all the toxicity in my life in order for that catalyst to be not only recognizable, but to work to its full potential. And that's what I was lacking at that point. So come 2019, like I was walking home from work one day, and I would walk like 2 miles to get to work every day, because I thought that was normal. Because I was like comfortable, like I knew I was in like I was scheduled at this point. Like I was getting my stuff. Yeah, I was in a routine. I was like going to get my stuff after work. You know, I'll sleep until like 11, 12 so that I'm not sick, then get to my job again and like do it all over again.
Yeah.
With like no purpose or anything, just so selfish, self-centered, undisciplined.
Yeah.
irritable, restless, discontent. That's exactly how I lived. And one night I remember I cried out on the way home. Just like, I can't do this shit anymore, you know? I need something to help me. And that was like a pivotal moment, you know, like nothing happened that night, you know, and I still continued to do my thing. And it was like a couple weeks later where like a high school friend of mine was like, reach out to this girl who went to our high school a couple grades above me, and she's like, she'll help you. And I was like, cool. And I never reached out to her because, you know, pride and ego get in the way, and fear, most importantly, fear of like change, fear of the future, fear of the unknown. Excuse me. And finally I did. And the conversation was in like the back alleyway of the restaurant that I was working at. And she was like, are you serious about this? She's like, because I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to help you. And I said, okay, I don't have insurance. Like, I don't have this, I don't have that. I have nothing. She's like, it's okay. She's like, I just need to know that you're serious about this and I'll call you back. And I said, yes. So long story short, I ended up getting a scholarship into the detox wing of rehab in Pennsylvania. I had no clue where that was, or it was all new surroundings for me. At this point, like, I had no money to my name. My dad ended up driving me. I had no phone on, by the way. Like, I just used Wi-Fi. I had no contact lenses, like, I'm blind as a bat. So I was just like literally just broken, just going into this rehab. Like the night after I was done my shift, I went, got well, said my goodbyes to like people who I thought cared about me. And then my dad drove me to this place, this rehab. It's called Livingren. It's in Bensalem. And I don't know, man. Like, I just kind of like listened and like I prayed. Like, there were so many like people that God like put in my life at that time that like looking back on it, I was like, wow, like this happened exactly the way it should, all because I was so sick of running my own show, like thinking I was like the boss, like universal human, and like the fucking world revolved around me. Like, I was finally like, okay, like I can't be this victim anymore. I can't allow my mom's death to like define me. I can't have everyone feel bad for me. I can't wallow in self-pity. Like, I'm not saying it was like a 180. I'm just saying like I had that little inkling of hope that like I might be able to change into the person I knew I always wanted to be, but always fell short because of my addiction or because of my selfishness. And basically, like, I learned a lot in there. Did like they have like a huge like network out here. Like, I didn't think like people were like normal and like in sobriety. I thought they were like all old men that like smoked cigarettes and like talked about their wives and how they hated being married. You know, like that's like what I thought it was. Like drinking like stale coffee, and like I just surrounded myself like with people and listened to suggestions because I wanted to attract people that wanted my well-being. So I started praying, and like this probably could turn people off hearing that word. Just like when people hear the word God, like it could probably like throw up a blocker. But for me, until someone told me like, hey, like prayer is literally a conversation with the universe, with God, with whatever. I just listened, you know, because I had no other like avenues of options. And I was like, you know, I'm just gonna like start having conversations. Like, I'm cursing, like I'm doing this, like I'm having like a random conversation, and it worked, you know, like it literally worked. And I was like, there's no shot that like this thing I can't see like wants me to do well after I was such a scumbag for so long. Like, that doesn't make any sense, you know? And basically like where I'm at now, because I did like a sober living stint for like 16 months, which was the best thing I could have ever done. So I didn't realize I didn't know how to live as a human anymore. Like I never really knew in the first place, you know, how to live as a human, like pay my bills and like, you know, like be able to like do dishes and like, I don't know. I was like, I literally was like, I lived animalistic for like a while, to be honest. And it's embarrassing to say that because you would never think it.
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, well, we would never think that. Like, I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah. I mean, what can
you
you
never
say?
know, but basically, where I'm at now is like, um,
Yeah.
I got my
So
license back.
how long were you in the rehab place? You said,
So,
did you say
yes.
16 months? Was that like
So
one
it
stint?
goes, right. It goes rehab, which is 28 days. Detox is 7.
Say
Like I
that
was
one
in
more time.
detox.
28
So
days?
28 days, right.
Rehab's 28
There's
days.
like a Sandra Bullock movie if you want to watch. It's called 28 Days. It talks about like rehab and AA and like
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
It's like pretty
28
funny. It's
days.
an older movie. Yeah, right.
Bet. I'll check that
Um,
out.
yeah, and yeah, detox. I think I was in there for 5 days.
Okay.
That yeah, so it's my first time ever going to something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then they're sober living. So they're like
Yeah.
recovery houses, sober houses, where you just surround yourself with like-minded people that are like trying to stay sober, and like they're trying to stay in a solution. Because what I learned, tough pill to swallow, is that this is something you need to do for the rest of your life every day. Like you need to be a good
Yeah.
person. You need to like do X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
every day, but that's how we should be living anyway, one day at a time. When I project into the future, I cause worry, like I'm worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. And like I'm trying to control something that I'm not powerful enough to control. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, man.
and then like the past, right?
Yeah, there's a saying, it's worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
Facts. That's a great. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So, yeah, I like learned that it wasn't the drink and the drug that was the issue. It was me. It was an internal change that needed to occur in order for me to live a fulfilled and helpful and loving life. I had to be more like the concept of my creator rather than the concept of the world. And I don't read the Bible a lot or whatever, but it does have great principles in it. There are great principles in a lot of books. And they talk about like the 7 deadly sins, and like we have these natural drives as humans: greed, lust, gluttony, things like that. We're naturally like that. It doesn't matter if you're an alcoholic or not.
Yeah.
We naturally have that. And it's a constant battle. Like once you can understand that the battle's happening behind closed doors, like you can't even see this battle. It's in a completely different realm.
Yeah.
Then you could start figuring out how to combat it on the surface, so that internally you can be radiating love, compassion, empathy, selflessness. Like, and I'm not perfect. Don't get me wrong. Like on my best day, I could still be a selfish prick, but when I wake up, like I try and redirect my thinking to that of wanting to help others, because like life is short, and like I tried to do the whole like money prestige thing, and like I had a lot of money at one point, and like that will never fill the void that it needs to fill correctly, No,
it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. It's attractive. It's,
of course,
it's really shiny and sparkly. It's very attractive, but yeah, man.
It wears off.
It.
Right.
You said it. And like you're like doing the surface level changes, and you literally just said it's the internal work that really changes it. It's from the inside out. And it's like kind of like trying to fix like a tree or something, and like it's got a bad branch or something's going on, but you really got to get down to the root of the problem. Like if you deal with the symptoms, you're dealing with, okay, I got to stop doing this, I got to stop doing that. Okay, when you start to get to the root of the problem, you start asking, why do I do this? Why do I have that tendency to want to act like this, or be selfish, or say fuck him, and judge these people in manners that isn't necessarily part of our higher self, our truer self, which is like all about love and like pretty much the opposite of the ego. So it's kind of like the ego fucks us up a lot.
Right. Yeah, and it's funny because I used to be exactly like that.
Yeah.
And like looking back on it, I'm like, whoa, how could I have been that kind of person, you know? And like, it's funny because like people who haven't talked to me in a while, they probably still think I'm that person, and it's a shame because
Yeah.
I have done work on myself. And I'm not saying that person, if I'm removed enough from certain principles that I practice every day, then like, yeah, I could easily, anyone can turn into that person. I don't care if you're fucking Gandhi, you know,
Yeah.
like anyone can turn into a savage of a human, you
Yeah.
know, if they don't, how do you think, like, it's not like God is like, oh, I picked you and like, you're going to be like, you're gonna like move mountains, like, or like you're gonna be able to like Martin Luther King. He wasn't like, okay, like you're chosen. Like no, like he put the work in, you
Yeah.
know, and he
Exactly.
believed in something that no one else, that other people might have believed in, but were terrified because they were scared to die, and he was not, you know, and like that's because he put the work in, and the catalyst did the rest, you know,
Yeah.
catapulted him into the figure that he was at that time. You know, he was the beacon of
Mhm.
light when it was like flooded with darkness. And like, um, you know, like today, like I said earlier, like I got my license back, you know, like
Mhm.
after 7 years, which is like really cool. And like pay my own bills, like normal like stuff that like people like me like normally, you know, we gotta like give us like small golf claps because it's a big deal, you know, like
Like
right.
love, fear, things like that. That are that it's
Yeah,
easy to fall back into that old self because we all have it
right.
within us. It's all the temptation that's there.
Yeah. It's like a constant battle. And it's like a daily reprieve. That's the way I like to describe it. A daily reprieve is like understanding, like a person told me that has like a lot of sobriety, and I really respect. He said, spirituality expires every 24 hours. So what you
Oh,
want to do in
that's
this, right?
that's deep. Yeah, that's real.
And
That's real right
it's
there.
true. And like you have like 24 hours, like the second you wake up, and like
That's right.
yesterday isn't going to be the same as today, and you're not promised tomorrow. So like for me, like what the more I'm in the present moment, the more I'm
Yeah.
focusing in the present and
Uh-huh.
grounding myself in the present. And meditation does help with that. I don't do it nearly as much as I should, but it definitely helps me like get in the present moment. The more I can be available to what my higher power, God, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, this being that literally helped grab me from like
Yeah.
the darkest fucking corner to see like the littlest like inkling of light.
Mhm.
All I had to do was like walk to it, like that being I'm talking about.
Yeah.
um then I could give it back to other people, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
I am only a guide. So like what I do now is I try and help other people the way I was helped. And it's like a lengthy process. It takes time. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of trauma that has to be talked about. There's a lot of the past. The whole point is like there are humans that like trust me enough that will open up to me about like things that they probably wouldn't confide in other people with. And that's only because they can relate to the way I felt when I was in my addiction and alcoholism. And it's a beautiful, beautiful situation. Like it literally, the some instances that happen, and I don't like normally, you know, talk to them, talk to people about it, but they've literally taken my breath away because it was so aligned
Yeah.
and it was so non-coincidental, you know, like
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
not some of these situations, like literally I was like, I did not do this. Here are my hands. Like I didn't do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is just me trying to be of maximum service. Like I want to
Mhm.
help people. And like, that is what life is all about for me today. You know, like I just want to help people. I don't want anything in return. I have no ulterior motives, you know, like, but don't try and take advantage of me because I'll literally,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah,
it's
you
not
gotta take
working.
care of yourself for sure.
like,
Yeah.
like I'm not that dumb. You have to understand, like I was the ultimate manipulator. So if you're trying to manipulate me,
Yeah.
I'm probably
Good
not
luck.
gonna, I'm probably 3 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
But anyway, like that's like not what it's about, but I like to like joke around, but
it's true, man.
But I for like the longest time, like when I first got sober in 2017, I was like, I want to go into real estate, and like I was hindered. I ended up relapsing before I finished my classes in Manhattan, because I was in New York at the time, like I said, and the thought came back to me when I was like 3 months sober this time, and like it took me a whole year because I was like a workaholic. It's one of like one of the defects I had to work on of my character, like being a workaholic, trying to avoid, and being like greedy and like wanting a lot of money. And I understood that like nothing grows in the garden of comfortability. Nothing is going to grow there. Yeah. And I knew that I always wanted more. So I ended up like quitting my job, finished my classes. It took me almost a year to finish my real estate classes. And like, I failed that fucking test 3 times, but every single time I failed, I was like, I got to keep going. It destroyed my ego because I've never failed anything. And this recently just happened. Yeah. And I've never failed something 3 times in my life. Not even like sobriety, knock on wood. Like hopefully that like is a continual thing. But at the time, I've never felt something so much in my life, and I felt defeated. And I had people that literally lifted me up and believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and like I ended up passing. And like that's a 4-year passion of mine that I was never able to go after because I was sitting in comfortability. I was okay with living in that studio apartment with cockroaches crawling on me, which is disgusting. I was okay with spending all of my paychecks and tips on a substance. I was okay with making my 64-year-old father, who literally would give me the shirt off his back, sleep on the floor. I was okay with running through everything and everyone that got in my fucking way. Yeah. To allow me to be selfish and get what I needed. Like I was okay with that. And that's what ultimately hindered me. And like I was patient this time too. Like I didn't allow it to rule my thinking. Like I knew at this point, like I had a foundation built of like making sure I keep 2 things at the top of the pyramid. God being number 1, and everything else would fall into place. And like that's basically like what's happening right now. And it's scary. I'm so scared of success. I'm terrified of success. And there comes a time and a point where when I changed my perception to how much money, like instead of like worrying about like how much money am I going to make, I know I'm going to make a lot of money, like how much money am I going to make off this house, how much money am I going to make off this couple, like it's how can I help people, like how can I help these first time buyers that are terrified during a transaction? How can I build trust? How can I make this transaction as smooth as possible for these people? How can I make them happy? And like I didn't even know I could think like that, until everything that transpired led me up to this point, and like I said, I'm not perfect at it, but life is like really, really short, and ultimately none of us really know what's happening after this, and like all we have is right now, and like all I know that works best for me and for the greater good of humanity is to not be an asshole and to love people that aren't very lovable, and to see the good in people that the majority of humans don't see, like I believe everyone should be forgiven, like everyone deserves another chance, and like who the fuck are we to judge others, and I used to be the most judgmental, and I still get caught judging people, but it's like who the fuck are you? Like you didn't birth this human onto earth, like this human didn't pop out of your vagina, so who the fuck are you judging them, like but that had to occur through a disciplined schedule and spiritual awakening. And life is like really good today. And
Man,
I don't know.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to be able to say that,
Mhm.
to be able to say life is really good today. You know, it's because it's not all that easy, and life throws stuff at you, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows, as Rocky once said.
Mhm.
But it's wild, man. Like
Mhm.
you gotta get up one more time and you get knocked down. Continue his quote.
Right.
But it's yeah, man. Like one thing that I used to do. You ever watch the movie The Secret? It was
By Rhonda Byrne. Yeah.
yeah. Yep, that's right. It was like a
Yeah.
documentary
So
based.
they have she has a book. You should read it. The book is better than the movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I've only watched the
She
movie.
yeah she practices the law of attraction actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah,
I
right?
read that book junior year of high school, and
Nice.
it's crazy because like at this point, me and my mother were like really close. My mom was like my best friend,
Yeah.
and I remember I was like all hyped up about it. I was like, yeah, law of attraction, like being excited about like treating people right and
Yeah.
like wanting to take care of yourself and understanding you deserve more and like
Mhm.
attracting positivity and like positive affirmations. And my mom, I remember we were in a doctor's office and I was watching it, and she would go to all my doctor's appointments with me because I loved her. She was the best. And
Yeah.
I remember I was like playing it, and I was like, Mom, like, why don't you stop smoking cigarettes? Like, you're literally killing yourself. And she's like, Aunt, shut the fuck up. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be a little bit harder than I thought to try and get her to see like the fact that like it works, it's working through me, and like I kept practicing. I kept reading about law of attraction. I kept looking up like stupid, like corny quotes and like positive
Yep.
affirmations.
Yeah.
And like she started like understanding that she deserved more,
Mhm.
like she deserved more than this broken marriage. She deserved more than being stuck at home having to take care of the house. Like she deserved a lot of this stuff. She deserved more than like uh having to get into arguments with someone that she loved, like, and she
Yeah.
started like slowly but surely, like started working a job. Like she started like doing like little things, like being like way more positive. And like, this is I guess a few years before she passed, but it was just like, I'll never forget that experience. Like it might've been like little, but I knew that it had like some type of influence, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, maybe that I could have that kind of influence on other people if I could have it on my mom, and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I believe that energy is everything, like if you don't have like a good aura internally,
Yeah.
you're not going to project
Yeah.
positivity, and like that's really like what this world needs. It needs positivity. It needs to not get wrapped up into the media and like who the fuck the president is and like all this other, like how much gas is, like
Yeah. Yeah.
stupid stuff, like it needs
Things you
to,
can't
people just need to
change.
start things we can't change. You just need to love each other
Yeah.
and just like build each other up. And like, there's so much room for people at the top, and
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be a dog eat dog world, it could be like bringing everyone to the top. Everyone can make it, but that's just not the, that's not the stigma that, the American dream is, it's like, I
Yeah.
don't know. That's a whole different story though, but
Yeah. Yeah. Which is all good, man.
yeah.
Yeah, I started, it was funny. I One of the things that I would do in high school is like I watched the movie The Secret. That's what started me on my spiritual journey. So to be able to kind of use the law of attraction and know about it and be able to attract more. I was always more of a positive guy. I don't know if like I'm sure a lot of it had to do with the secret, but I think I was like happy go lucky kid before then. Um
Right. Yeah, I remember you were always really positive.
Yeah, yeah, more like upbeat. It was more enjoyable for me if I was
Mm.
I was at that state instead of like down and tired and unhappy, not wanting to be there. In school, I would just like, all right, if nothing's going on, I'm just going to talk to this person and just like spark up a conversation, get to know them and whatnot. And one thing that I would do, which I got from the movie The Secret, is I would carry around gratitude rocks. And for those who don't know, the idea behind it is it's really just a reminder to say thankful for things, all the things that we forget about that we should be thankful for, like for the bed that I have, for the refrigerator that I have, for the food that's in that refrigerator.
I think it's funny that you say that because an old timer once told me, he was like, a grateful heart will never drink. And all the guys that I work with, I make it mandatory for them to send me a gratitude list, and we'll like send it to each other. So like every morning, like we'll send things we're grateful for. And I have to, if I'm ungrateful, forget about it. Like I'm not going to be, I'm always going to want more naturally. And being grateful and having gratitude. I actually, hold on, let me grab this. I have this. This was, someone gave me this. It says, gratitude turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos into order, confusion into clarity. It makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. It's a pretty cool thing. I hold on to it.
That's awesome. That's great. That's really great.
It like allowed me, you know, it allowed me to be grateful. Like it allowed me to like like I break down, like I'm so emotional now, like now that I'm sober. And
I mean, you're working through things. Like it's past, it's like the shadow work, is some call it.
Yeah, well that's all done. Like all the shadow work of the past is done. I just get emotional because of gratitude. It literally floods me. Like when I drove off,
that's the type.
Like when I drove off that car lot in my car that I Ubered to, I remember I was literally probably one of the most, I was like breaking down, like it was crazy. And like when I passed that real estate exam, like after failing it 3 times, I literally broke down in my car because we're supposed to be happy for our accomplishments, you know? We're supposed to be proud of ourselves. That's a healthy pride, you know? I break down like when I see other people like understanding a new way of living like I did at that point, like at 3 months sober, 4 months sober, you know, I sometimes I'll just be like sitting somewhere and I'm like, wow, like I am so grateful for this life because I wanted to kill myself, you know, and I wanted to die, and like, I don't have to live like that, and I'm not, you know, like I'm starting a career. Like I have my father in my life. My father just celebrated 9 months sober. I took him to rehab on Father's Day, and like he's still sober, thank God. Like I get to like I don't feel like a victim anymore with my mom passing away. Like I was able to write a letter to her and burn it and like have her ashes with me and like pray and just like sit by the water and like just listen to like what God was trying to tell me, you know. And like when I get in arguments with people, like I try and fix it right away, you know, because if not, it'll keep me sick. And like the most beautiful thing I can say is like not having one secret, you know. Secrets keep you sick. I don't care who you are. Letting go of past trauma and letting go of your shortcomings of the past and mistakes and like telling another person about it, you know, like that's what confessional is for. Yeah, it's been like completely like I would never go to a random old man and like talk through like a weird I'm sorry, that's not me. But anyway, like I do that with people today, you know, and I think that's so important. Like if you have a secret that you've never told anyone, just let all those fucking bricks off your shoulder. Like this is it. You don't want to die with any secrets, you know, because it's a burden. Ultimately, it's going to hinder your success. It's going to hinder your potential. It's going to hinder the way you treat others. You know, it sucks. And like, you have to let go. Like just because you've done something of the past that you're not proud of does not mean it defines you. It does not fucking define you.
Yeah.
And that's still something I struggle with, you know, and it doesn't define me. Like it is what it is. Like I'm willing to face any consequences that might like come up in the future for my past wrongdoing. And that's a beautiful thing. Like I'm not scared of it anymore. I'm not allowing it to run my fucking life, you know? And I have a peace of mind today that I never thought I could have acquired, like just being at peace with what was, what is, and what will be, and
Yeah.
I can't, people who are listening to this, like they're probably not going to like understand what I'm saying. Like it's a personal journey. It's a personal
I'm sure they
relationship.
will. Because like, when you hear something and you like when things are true, when like if somebody says something, sometimes you just know if it's the truth. You know
Yeah.
if it hits, if like, wow, that makes sense. Like what you're talking about, like a lot of people have really gone through that, whether or not they're willing to admit it or be open about it. Like people go through these hardships, then it's like, what are your coping mechanisms? How solid are they? Are they good? Are they not good? Like, and
Yeah.
then the other part is because we get like built up trauma over our years, and the amount of stuff that can like filter into us as we're kids and adolescents and teenagers and things, it molds us in a way that we don't necessarily have control over at the time. But as we get
Yeah.
older and we start to reflect and look at ourselves, we can decide, do I want to stay that way? And one thing that was really good that came up was I came across a line. I read this like super cool book. It was called The Book of Love, and it's by Karen Bentley, and it talks about this other book called A Course in Miracles, which I kind of describe as
Okay.
like a New Age Bible, kind of, which is like
Cool.
channeled by a lady who worked at Columbia University. I forget like the exact date, but it was recent. I think it was in the 90s. And the idea behind it was that it was supposed to clear up a lot of misconceptions from the Bible. So, like certain things like what a miracle is. Like a miracle, like in the Bible, it comes as like walking on water is a miracle, and multiplying fish into 1,000 fish is a miracle. And it's like little things that it'll do will be like redefine the term of miracle to say that no, miracle is getting upset about something for 25, 45 years of your life and then working through it and no longer being affected by it.
Right.
That's a miracle.
It's a modern day miracle, right?
A modern day, literally. And so like it was I forget where I was going with the train of thought, but it's an amazing thing. Definitely check into that. It's called A Course in Miracles. It's like this thick ass book.
Yeah.
It's literally like a Bible. So it's like that fine print. So I start with The Book of Love if you
Yeah.
get
I'll
into
look
it.
at, yeah, I'll definitely look into it.
By Karen Bentley, because it kind of like digests it and then like
Yeah.
explains it. But what I was the point I was starting with was that a lot of people pick up these traumas over the years and you can't really do anything about it until you're at the age where one, you need the self-awareness. So you
Yeah.
need to be able to look at yourself and say, all right, I'm fucking up and I'm not doing as best as I can. And another thing is that, yes, the point that I was going to say was it talked about not looking at things in terms of right and wrong, but in terms of does this serve me or does this not serve me? So in reality, like nothing in this world is really right or wrong. Like drug use might be deemed wrong, but if you do cocaine and you get incredibly creative and you write a song and that song sells for millions of like sales, is it really wrong? So you got to look at it more so. It says to look at it in terms of does this serve me or does this not serve me?
Right.
And so things will go to a point, especially drug use. Certain drug use is okay, like a glass of wine at the end of the day for a lot of work.
Right. So drug use isn't okay for people who are addicts or alcoholics, and like,
So
but
that's
like normal
that's
people
serious.
can like, yeah, normal
That's
people
the
can
thing
like
for
drink a
sure.
glass of wine, or like weed has like healing powers, like it works with inflammation, chronic
Yeah.
pain, like, I could I could go off tangent for this for forever, like of why I think like certain drugs, like friggin' what
Yeah.
is it? Is it is it LSD? I'm trying to remember what helps with like PTSD. There's like something microdosed can help with PTSD.
Yeah, psilocybin.
Right, there's
Mushrooms just got legalized in
mushrooms. Like these things are good,
Oregon,
like
for PTSD and that kind of therapy. Yeah.
Right. And like for me, what's gonna best serve me, and this is what I found out just for me, is that anytime I pick up any substance, it could even be Benadryl or NyQuil. I will, as an addict or alcoholic, abuse it because I love escaping reality. And not everyone's like that, and like that's cool. Like I know for me to reach my highest self that you were speaking of, like I need to have entire abstinence of anything, like, and just watch it in moderation. Like I don't get me wrong, I still like will take NyQuil if I'm not feeling good. Like I have a cold right now, but like just being aware of what my spiritual grounding currently is, and not allowing abuse of anything, to overrun my life, like sex, shopping, things like that, gambling, like any of that. Like I try not to, be a glutton and like abuse anything, but it's hard, like I'm an addict, so I'm never really balanced, like I'm a Libra, you'd think I'd be like balanced or something, but I'm never really balanced. I'm always off balance, but I try and strive for that balance every single day. And the day that I don't is the day I'm in trouble, if that makes sense. So
amen to that.
But
that's beautiful, man. Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know. You've gone through a lot, and so all that needs to be commended. So fantastic job for you, and like for anybody else that's really like worked through these things, because the work doesn't happen unless you do it. So congratulations. I'm happy to hear that you're in a good spot, man. I'm glad we reconnected.
I'm glad too.
I'm glad you got to share your story and share your journey. And like, I'm sure it'll affect people. Like, who knows, somebody may hear this and it might be the catalyst for change.
They can always reach out, and like I don't want anyone to ever feel like, if they're struggling, like never feel like you're alone, because you're not, and you're also not that unique. So for the longest time I thought I was like terminally unique, and like that's not the case. Like there's plenty of people that have done the same dirt as I've done, some worse, and like until you like speak up about it, you're gonna remain in that darkness. And like life is so short. Like I wish I could get everyone on this side of the fence, and you have to be willing to hear it. You have to have the open-mindedness and willingness to hear it. It has to register. And for the longest time, it didn't register for me, but it did today. I mean, today it does.
Recently,
so,
today it does.
But
you got to be ready. So
it
was a pleasure having you on, man.
Thank you so much.
We're coming up to an hour, so
awesome. I'm gonna get off. I got stuff to do. Good. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too, brother.
All right, I'll see you.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
All right, later. Hey, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Diving and Thriving podcast. Anthony's got some great things to say. So if you need anything, if you're going through a struggling time, just know there are resources out there that you can definitely go to. So if you watch this and made it to the end, give me a like and subscribe and leave a comment with what your favorite part was. And until next time.